let's talk about every single book I read in the month of March. I literally got confused just now. I could not remember if it was March or not. It's now April. My birthday is in a couple days. I hate when this happens, but pretty much every single book I read this month was in a reading vlog. So if you're curious about more of my in-depth thoughts, like almost live reactions, you should watch those videos just because I'll like read the book and like give you updates as I go. So this will be like more broad. I'm over explaining. Let's get into the 8 books I read in the month of March. I have a couple rereads, a good mix of genres as well, and a couple 4 stars. Technically I found a new 5-star this month, but we'll get there. I'll explain that one when we get to it. So starting off the month strong with actually an audiobook, which I always tell you guys, if I actually sat down and read the book before I listened to it on Audible. Nope, on audio. I don't have Audible. Anyways, The Teacher I listened to and it was so good. It is basically, it's about this couple who are both teachers, and my cat is always eating while I film. Like, couldn't you eat that before? Basically, it's about these teachers that work at the same school. They're both teachers, they're married, and you're also following a girl. And I think you get the POVs from all 3 of the characters, but last year the girl was almost like, but in the beginning you're like, well, what really happened? Like, what's going on? And the woman teacher, guys, I cannot remember names for the life of me. All I remember is the girl's name was Addie. I don't remember the teacher's names at all. But the woman teacher who was married to the man teacher, God, me trying to explain this is so ridiculous. But she's very obsessed of Addie. Things start to unfold, and then literally as soon as you think you're done with all the twists in the book, the episode says, no, I've got one more for you. It was crazy. Next up, I have my 2 rereads from the month, which I'm not going to talk about a ton because it's actually books 6 and 7 of the Harry Potter series. I have a dedicated video of this on my channel if you are interested. And if you don't know what Harry Potter is about, because I don't want to tell you what these 2 books are about since they are the last 2 books of the series, but Harry Potter is about a young boy who you follow him from the age of 12 to, I don't know, probably like 18. I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But he's grown up thinking that like wizards don't exist, even though his parents were wizards that were murdered, basically. So you follow him in all of his crazy adventures throughout his 7 years at Hogwarts. Him and 2 of his best friends, Ron and Hermione, which I feel like I am Hermione. Also, Emma Watson always plays characters that I feel like I can relate to, so like maybe I'm also a little bit like Emma Watson. Anyways, love those books. Both of those are 5 stars. Again, this was me just rereading them. I've read them before, but I was so young that I truly didn't remember a single thing about the books, so I wanted to reread them. I also want to do series like that on my channel where I read books in a series. It doesn't have to be a reread. It's a series on my channel where I'm reading series. That's funny. Anyways, I think I'm gonna do that with Throne of Glass, which I've been talking about for forever, but I think that's gonna go on my next month on May's video roster. Oh wait, I just realized The Teacher is not in any reading vlog this month, which makes me feel so much better because I hate when every single one of my books in this video is in a reading vlog. Anyways, next up I read Anna Karenina by Leo Tolstoy. I gave this a 3-star, but if I'm being so honest with myself, it should probably be a 2.5 because truly, I could barely tell you what this book is about. I did not really like it. I started out reading the physical copy but then switched to the audiobook simply because I couldn't get myself to actually sit down and read the book. Like, I didn't like it enough to actually sit down and read it. Plus, this was a book that I like soft DNF'd a couple years ago because I didn't like it. And another thing, I literally knew the ending of this book within the first like 20% of the book, so there was actually no point in me continuing on fully knowing how the book ends. But basically the premise of this book is that you follow a young woman who is married and has a child, but then she has an affair with another man, and this takes place probably in like the 1800s. I don't even know when this book was written, but it's a classic, so I'm sure it takes place way back in the day. So obviously all of this was like very unheard of back in the day. If you've read the book, you know what I'm talking about, because like things kind of unfold and like she makes decisions that were just not heard of in the day. I feel like that this book takes place. But hey, like what do I know? I'm not a historian. One thing's for sure, I do not know my history as I should. Okay, we're actually flying through the books I read this month, and maybe that's because so far we're still talking about the ones that were like to me, you know, other than The Teacher, because that one was really good. Oh, and that was my first Freida McFadden book, so definitely excited to read more from her. Next up, another classic. I read Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen, and this one 100% reminds me of, like, I don't want to bash it and say Bridgerton because I hated the Bridgerton books, but Bridgerton in the sense that they're lords and ladies, they have a lot of money, and the family is like trying to marry off their daughters. That's, you know, a big part of the book, money and marriage. Also, I rated this one a 3.5 star because I really love reading about lords and ladies that have money and like their little problems and them trying to find husbands. I don't know why, but I love that. And Jane Austen so far has been the easiest classic for me to read. Something about the way she writes and like her lack of descriptions in her writing makes it so much easier to read, because I'm telling you, some classics will go on for pages describing something and I'm like, I don't care. No offense. I don't care. I don't care that the color of the sky was like cotton candy on a blue backdrop with roses. I don't even know. Like, if you are giving me a description longer than a couple sentences, I'm out. Like, if you're doing that a lot, goodbye. See you later. And I read When the Emperor Was Divine. This one I gave 3 stars. It is a super short book, but because of that I feel like I couldn't really get connected to the characters, which I am such a characters person. But this basically follows a family during World War II that goes through the Japanese camps. So it's historical fiction, but it's super interesting because you get multiple point of views, and the last point of view was so good. And also I loved how this book started out because it was super like mysterious. They don't use names at all. I think you only got the name of one character, which really shows a lot about the book and like what they go through in the camps. But because it was so short, it wasn't super descriptive, and like I said, I just couldn't connect to the characters enough to give it more than a 3 star. But her writing was so good. Okay, now for my only 5 star of the month. It's actually a memoir, and for me, if a memoir isn't a 5 star, I will not rate it, because obviously it feels a little weird to rate a memoir, but personally I rate memoirs based on how much I can hear the author in the memoir. So like this one was Britney Spears, and I really felt like I was reading something that she wrote, and that is not always the case with celebrity memoirs or memoirs from like famous people, because you know, sometimes they like work with other authors or they have a ghostwriter, and like that's fine if you have a ghostwriter, but it's your memoir. I want to be able to hear your voice in it, and this one I could hear her voice so clearly. It felt like we were talking to each other. That's how much I could hear her voice in this memoir. And even if she had a ghostwriter, like they did a good job. And if you don't know much about Britney Spears' story, it was super heavy in the news a couple years ago that she was just getting out of her wait, what is it called? You guys know what I'm talking about. Basically, her family was like running her life for the longest time, and so this book kind of gives her point of view on it. And I also think it's so interesting reading celebrity memoirs because they then get to have their input on the way the media has portrayed them, because obviously paparazzi and the media are going to twist things to get more views and more reads and more clicks. That's just how it is nowadays, and I feel like most of the time they want celebrities to look bad because that's what gives them more clicks. I don't know, but I think it's so interesting being able to get the point of view of said celebrity, and in this case it's Britney Spears. Her story is insane, and like just the way that her family treated her is so crazy. And I actually didn't know much about Britney Spears before going into this, or her family situation at all. I'm just like not super into reading things like that. Like I'm not super into reading like gossip magazines or things like that. So reading this memoir, everything was brand new to me. Like I didn't know any of this, especially when she's like talking about like the news and her past husbands and like the publicity surrounding them. I was like, I had no idea. But also like a lot of that was happening while I was probably too young to be reading news, especially celebrity news, because sometimes I can get a little crazy. And my last read for the month of March will actually be in another video coming out probably next week, but it is Anxious People, and this is one of those OG book talk books that I never really got around to, but I'm so glad I did. This is also the first book I've read by this author, so I really went into this book blind. I had no idea what to expect. Wait, I say that, but also it was fully not what I expected from this book. Like I just picked it up, didn't even read the back of it or anything, simply because I was like, oh, I've seen people really like this book, so totally went into it blind. But it's basically about a bank robbery turned hostage situation, and it kind of reminded me of Nine Perfect Strangers. I don't really know why. I guess maybe because it was like a group of strangers being held hostage, but it was so interesting. And you also got a lot of point of views from like the police officers, as well as some outside people that were not being held hostage but had connections to the hostages. And then like at the end, everything wrapped itself together, and I love when books do that seamlessly, when they do it to the point where like it doesn't feel forced. It feels like everything was supposed to wrap up like that. It was so good. good. Again, rated it 4 stars. The only reason I didn't rate it a 5 was because towards the middle, I felt like I was just losing myself in it. Wait, what? I felt like towards the middle, I was getting slightly bored. I was like, okay, where are we going with this? And then it got better again as we started like wrapping things up. Now, I'm actually in the middle of 2 books right now. And if you saw my What I Read in a Week from the beginning of this month, you'll see that I started A Little Life and I still have yet to finish it. I've been around this mark for weeks now, and that's because I know from here on out it is going to get hard to read. And like, trust me, it has not been easy to read so far, but I know the end is going to absolutely wreck me, so I've been putting it off. But I mean, I still really like it. I just am not in the headspace to want to be sad from a book right now, and I know that this is going to wreck me, so I keep putting it off, waiting for me to be in the mood for this book because I don't want to push it, especially because I know it's super sad. But I'm definitely going to finish that this month. If I don't know what I'm going to do with myself. Like, if I don't finish it, I probably will never finish it. Anyways, I'm also reading The True Love Experiment by Christina Lauren. I've read a couple Christina Lauren books before and I really like them. I'm a little over halfway in this one, which is nice, but it's very similar to The Bachelorette in the sense that there's an author that goes on a dating show that's basically designed for her, but the twist is that the contestants had to like get their DNA matched with her. So like, basically they use this dating app that uses DNA to test if you'll be a good match with someone. I don't know, it's pretty good so far, but I definitely don't think it'll be a 5-star read because I'm not like obsessed with it. I also have already planned out all of my videos for the month of March, so I know what books to put on my TBR. And I say that because when I show you my first book, you're gonna be like, girl, this has been a new TBR for months. I know, but I'm actually going to get to it this month because I finally decided what I want to do with it video wise, because I always knew I wanted at least one of the books to be in a video. This is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder trilogy, and I definitely want to get to all 3 of these books this month. I'm so excited. I'm not going to talk about this because, well, basically it's like a girl trying to solve a cold case. That's all I'm gonna say because that's pretty much all I know, but also I've talked about this in every single TBR section that I've done this year. We're getting to them this month for sure. These 2 are also repeats as well. Are we surprised? This is Made in Manhattan, but I have to return this book to the library, so I'm reading it probably within the next week. And then again, The Honey Don't List by Christina Lauren. My public library just had a ton of Christina Lauren books last time I went, so I wanted to pick them up, see how I feel about them. Pretty sure these are both romances. Yes, they are. So hopefully I'm in a romance mood in the month of April. I feel like when the warmer months start to roll around, I typically am in a little bit of a more romancy type of mood. Like I want to read something a little bit more lighthearted. Something about the warmer months. I don't know why. On that note, I'm actually thinking about starting Throne of Glass this month. I haven't fully decided, so that's why I didn't bring any of the physical copies with me for the TBR section of this video, but it's really tempting. I might do it. That is it for this video. That is every single book I read in the month of March, plus some of the books on my April TBR. I hope you all enjoyed it. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!